Powerful countries around the world have a secret weapon they use to remove the leader of any country. That weapon is called a coup. The word coup comes from the French language. It means to strike, cut, or forcefully take something away. In politics, it means when a country's leader is removed by force and someone else is put in charge instead. Whenever a coup takes place in any country, there's usually more than one reason behind it and more than one player involved. But in today's video, I'm going to show you how, over the last 100 years, the United States has used coups in other countries to protect and promote its own interests. And by the end of this video, you might start to question everything you thought about international laws and global rules, because the truth is they often don't mean much. In the end, the one with the most power makes the rules and breaks them as they please. Now, the countries I'll talk about today all have one thing in common, and that is America's direct role in the coups that happened there has been proven. Each of these events is big enough for its own separate documentary, but I'll keep things short and to the point so we can cover them all in one go. Let's start with the year 1893. This was the year when America did a coup in other country for the very first time. Around 3,000 miles away from the United States, the Queen of Hawaii had become a threat to the American sugar business. Years earlier, American missionaries had arrived in Hawaii to spread Christianity, but they ended up buying a lot of land and started large-scale sugar farming. Most of that sugar was being exported to America, while the local Hawaiian people saw very little profit. When the Queen tried to introduce a new constitution to limit the power of these sugar businessmen, it caught the attention of the big sugar mill owners back in the US. Not long after that, the American military sent warships to Hawaii. With support from a few local allies, they removed the Queen from power and installed one of the same Christian missionaries as the new president of Hawaii. This was the first time America successfully intervened in another country and helped overthrow its government. And like the saying goes, once a lion tastes blood, it doesn't stop at just one village. Something very similar happened with America after this. Now let's move to the year 1895. At that time, the Spanish Empire was falling apart. Most of its major colonies were experiencing uprisings and revolutions, especially Cuba, Puerto Rico, and the Philippines. Meanwhile, America was becoming a rising superpower, and it didn't like that Spain still controlled these nearby islands because they were in very strategic locations. The United States was waiting for the right moment, and it finally got one when one of its ships exploded near Puerto Rico. America immediately blamed the Spanish Empire for the incident. That gave the US a reason to officially join the war between Spain and the local rebels. America told the people of Puerto Rico, Cuba, Guam and the Philippines that if they helped fight off the Spanish, they would be granted freedom afterward. With US military support, the locals managed to push the Spanish Empire out, but instead of giving those countries their promised freedom, the US installed its own puppet leaders in all 4 places. So in just 8 years, America had already carried out coups in several countries and set up governments that suited its own interests. Now let's jump to the year 1909. In Central America, there's a country called Nicaragua. Its land is perfect for growing coffee, and many American companies had already invested there, exporting coffee beans around the world. Then elections were held, and a new president came to power. He didn't like how American companies were exploiting Nicaragua's resources, so he tried to introduce some regulations. But America didn't want that. So, the US started spreading propaganda against the president, claiming he was planning to build a canal similar to the Panama Canal. Even neighboring countries believed the rumor and turned against him. Years later, it became clear this was completely false. Meanwhile, a rebellion broke out in Nicaragua. America sent its navy to help the rebels. With US support, they won, and the president was forced to resign. As expected, America installed a leader it preferred. Just 2 years later, in 1911, America did something similar in Honduras, Nicaragua's neighbor. The president there was also trying to control American companies, this time in the banana trade. Behind the banana industry was an American businessman named Sam the Banana Man. He had so much power that he brought in a private army to fight in Honduras and protect his business. The US government said nothing. When the situation got intense, the US stepped in to negotiate a ceasefire. The Honduran president was forced to step down. Then Sam the Banana Man helped appoint a new president who supported him. That new leader gave Sam more land and made his companies tax-free. In short, one American businessman ended up toppling an entire government. Alright, now let's fast forward to the 1950s. By this time, America had become a global superpower. Its intelligence agency, the CIA, had completely changed how modern warfare was carried out. America wasn't just focusing on nearby countries anymore. It had started interfering all over the world. The US had one major enemy at this time, the Soviet Union. America was determined to stop the spread of the Soviet Union's communist ideology at any cost. And this brings us to Iran. In 1953, Iran held elections, and Mohammad Mossadegh Mossadegh became prime minister, he wanted to take back control of Iran's oil from the British. Back then, a British company called Anglo-Iranian controlled all of Iran's oil. Mossadegh wanted to nationalize the oil industry. Basically, he wanted the Iranian government to own it. The British didn't like this idea. They warned Mossadegh that there would be consequences. Soon, the British government met with the CIA, and both decided that Mossadegh had to be removed. So the CIA secretly sent its Middle East chief, Kermit Roosevelt, to Iran. His mission was simple: remove Mossadegh. Kermit started bribing politicians and religious leaders to turn them against Mossadegh. Fake propaganda was spread across the country. Some religious leaders were even attacked, and Mossadegh was blamed for it. As protests broke out, violence spread. Shops were set on fire, and police were attacked with stones. In response, police opened fire, killing hundreds. Things in Tehran spiraled out of control. In the end, Mossadegh had to resign. He was arrested, put on trial, and kept under house arrest for the rest of his life. To replace him, the US and UK brought in Mohammad Reza Shah Pahlavi, making him the king of Iran.
5 centuries. His title is King of Kings, and he becomes Emperor of his nation.
This was a big win for America. In a powerful country like Iran, they had installed a pro-Western, pro-American ruler. Shah opened Iran to American oil companies, but his rule turned Iran into a police state. Anyone who opposed him, politicians, military officers, religious leaders, students, was silenced. Over time, the oppression got worse. In 1979, the people finally had enough. They filled the streets, and Shah had to flee the country. A religious leader named Ayatollah Khomeini replaced him and completely changed Iran's direction, both politically and culturally. America's former ally had now become its enemy. If you look closely, you'll see that the real reason behind the 1979 Iranian Revolution was actually the 1953 coup backed by America. And just a year after the Iran coup, in 1954, America pulled off the same playbook in Guatemala. There, a democratically elected prime minister tried to place restrictions on American companies that had monopolized the country's electricity and railroads. He also took land from banana companies and gave it to regular people so they could grow food. Just like in Honduras, American banana businesses had a lot of power in Guatemala too. So the US decided this prime minister had to go. The US President and Secretary of State ordered the CIA to carry out a coup. The CIA supplied weapons to retired Guatemalan soldiers and armed civilians. They also set up a fake radio station in Florida that broadcasted in Spanish, pretending a revolution had started in Guatemala. While the radio faked the news, the CIA-backed forces began attacking government buildings. It looked like a real civil war had started, but only the Guatemalan president knew the truth. The pressure became too much, and eventually the president stepped down. The CIA then placed their chosen man in charge. What followed was decades of chaos, killings, political violence, and instability, and the country still hasn't fully recovered. One coup, driven by American business interests, ruined Guatemala's future, and even after 70 years, the country continues to suffer. Anyway, now let's talk about Africa. The year was 1960. In the middle of Africa, there's a country called Congo that had just gained independence from Belgium. After holding fresh elections, a man named Patrice Lumumba became the prime minister. This made America very nervous because the Cold War was in full swing, and Congo had a lot of natural resources, especially uranium, which is used to make nuclear bombs. America didn't want such a rich country to have an independent leader, so once again, the US government gave the CIA a mission: remove Lumumba from power. Using money, connections, and propaganda, the CIA pulled it off, but many people died in the process, including the Prime Minister himself. Still, the CIA got what it wanted. Now it's 1963. In Southeast Asia, Vietnam had become the center of attention for both global superpowers. Back then, Vietnam was divided into two parts: the Communist North and the Western-backed South. The story of Vietnam is long, and we'll cover it in another detailed video. But to put it simply, America wanted to keep control of South Vietnam. The president there was losing his grip, so the US decided it was time for another coup. This time, they chose a military general to carry it out. Unfortunately, the president was killed during the coup, even though the CIA didn't order that. But what followed was unexpected. Because of this coup, America got stuck in the Vietnam War for the next 10 years. It lost badly and was humiliated. This was the first time America faced the consequences of its own actions. We'll cover the Vietnam War in another video soon. In 1964, America did a similar coup in Brazil. It removed the government and installed a new president that the US liked. Now let's go back to Central America. The year is 1989, and the country is Panama. America had a big interest in Panama because of the Panama Canal, one of the world's most important trade routes. At that time, Panama's dictator was friendly with America, but US officials started losing trust in him. Then some Panamanian soldiers accidentally killed American soldiers. America had been waiting for an excuse like this. It sent 27,000 troops to Panama, crushed the military, and arrested the dictator. He was sentenced to 40 years in jail. Another government was overthrown. Now we go to South Asia, and the year is still 1989. There was a war going on between the Soviet Union and Afghanistan. The Soviets supported Afghan President Mohammad Najibullah, while America backed the Afghan Mujahideen. To help the Mujahideen, America gave billions of dollars in aid to Pakistan, which then passed that support to the Afghan fighters. Eventually, the Mujahideen won and the Soviets left. But the Mujahideen later turned into the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. Just 12 years later, in 2001, America went to war against those same groups and destroyed Afghanistan. Now it's 2003, and America has shifted its focus to Iraq. The US wanted to remove Saddam Hussein at all costs. We've already made a video explaining why, and you should definitely check that one out if you want to understand the full background. In 2003, America invaded Iraq, saying it was looking for chemical weapons. In a matter of weeks, Saddam's government was removed and replaced with one friendly to America. 3 years later, in 2006, Saddam was executed. Another American-backed coup was completed. But this time it led to something even worse. Terrorist groups like ISIS were born and went on to destabilize the entire Middle East. Even today, these groups remain a threat. Now let's talk about the final coup in this video. The year is 2011, and protests had started across the Arab world. These protests were called the Arab Spring. One major hotspot was Libya, where Muammar Gaddafi had been in power for 32 years. Many Libyans were unhappy with his rule. Gaddafi was strongly against America and NATO. The protests gave the US a perfect chance to remove him. Once again, America pushed for a coup, but this time NATO joined in. NATO drones attacked Gaddafi's convoy, and he was eventually caught and killed on the spot. Since then, Libya has remained in chaos and has never been stable again. This might be one of the most detailed videos we've done on this channel, but it's also one of the most important. It shows just how far powerful countries and people will go to protect their interests. If you have power, even the law will bow to you. We may not like it, but this is how global politics work. Let's see what happens next. Will America pick another country as its target, or will it start facing internal divisions or civil war? 2025 is shaping up to be a very critical year for geopolitics. These are all the sources we consulted for today's video. See you in the next video. Take care of yourselves.